Destiny 2 Renegades, a Star Wars inspired expansion, is now out. I've played it and I've beat it. I have a lot to say on the Destiny front as to the quality of the expansion, the larger state of the game, and those thoughts will come in a later video. This video is all about should Star Wars fans play this expansion. I feel well placed to talk about this as a massive Star Wars fan and as a massive Destiny fan. I know how brutal the current onboarding can be, how the current sentiment is around Bungie, and the larger state of the game. And as a result, I can give a verdict as to whether I believe Star Wars fans should touch this or not. So, Renegades, the Star Wars expansion. To be clear, this is not Star Wars invading Destiny, this is Destiny being inspired by it. You will not find Darth Vader here, or Watto, or Babu Frick. Renegades uses the themes and inspirations of Star Wars to tell its own story in the ongoing Fate saga within Destiny. What you will find, however, is an arsenal of weapons so heavily inspired by Star Wars that they're basically just Star Wars blasters in the universe of Destiny. From the DC-17 of Republic Commando, Boba Fett's EE-3, Han's DL-44, all the way to the Praxic blade resembling the iconic lightsaber. This, alongside a number of locations within Destiny that have been heavily modified to resemble iconic Star Wars locations of Hoth, Tatooine, and a mixture of Endor and Dagobah. We'll start with the story because I think it's important for two reasons. The first of all is if I'm a Star Wars fan and this is not about Star Wars characters or a Star Wars story, why would I care? The second is Destiny is a franchise that has gone on for 10 years now. Can I just jump in here without needing a year of YouTube Premium and a subscription to My Name is Bife? To answer part one, it revolves around archetypes. Drifter being your Han Solo smuggler character, Anor being your Jedi, Dredge and Bale the Sith, and Ghost being the equivalent of droid companions. I almost look at treating the Renegades campaign and story as if it's happening in its own galaxy. The Jedi Order are the Praxic Order, the Force is the light and the dark, and I think as its own story, with the Star Wars archetypes, I do think it's enjoyable. A fan of Destiny will obviously get a lot more out of it, but there are certain events that take place that I just think Star Wars fans will appreciate, regardless of their knowledge of Destiny lore. On that second point of, is it an okay jumping in point? If you're just there to play the Renegade campaign, muck about with the blasters, that yeah, it's a self-contained story that it helps to know what happened in the previous expansion, Edge of Fate, and there are some big reveals for that. But you can absolutely enjoy this as just this one-off Star Wars adventure. It's hard to not talk about the story through the Destiny lens because there are some very important events that do transpire here, but in terms of would a Star Wars fan get much from this, I think it is. I think it's quite enjoyable. And I think Star Wars fans will appreciate a lot of the character designs here. I mean, Dredge and Bale, who's this mix between Kylo and Revan. And for us as Star Wars fans, you make those associations, but in Destiny, it's a well-fitted approach to that character's design and how he speaks and his mannerisms that we might be like, well, that's just kind of like Kylo Ren and how he's talking and how he's got anger issues. But at the same time, what's happening in the context of the Destiny story, it works. It's the same with Anor, who has this almost old Republic kind of armor that I'm a big fan of, and there's a lot to kind of like about it. And that goes with the Cantina and the Guardians that wear the armor around there and how that fits like a Cantina bar of Star Wars. I think there's just some generally good storytelling and generally good character work here. What I would say about the story and the campaign is that it's not a traditional story. There is only about 4 to 5 main missions here, and a lot of it is about rerunning the same activity that's part of the Endgame. But between the character work that goes on, sometimes it's great, and you get this very satisfying arc towards the end of it. And other times, it's like you are literally flying through hyperspace in terms of when did that happen and when did this happen. So sometimes it's great, and sometimes if you're not into Destiny, you're just going to be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There is a bit too much going on here. But again, if you are familiar with Star Wars and because of where this narrative goes, I think it's just about okay to keep up with and enjoy on that front. The truth is that if you want a deep Star Wars narrative like a Jedi Survivor, you won't find that here. You're not going to find that in Destiny 2 Renegades because that is too hard to do within the realms of Destiny that is also trying to tell this bigger story alongside this self-contained Star Wars one that anyone can pick up and play, which they can, but you're not going to get the same feeling that you would get from a Jedi Survivor, for example. Going into Renegades, in my video discussing it, I said something quite bold, but also, now that I've finished it, I stand by. Destiny 2 Renegades is the best Star Wars first-person shooter I think we're going to get in this decade. I mentioned that a few years ago, if you'd have said to me, Bungie, a studio renowned for their first-class gameplay and gunplay, are going to design a Star Wars-inspired experience, I would have snapped your hand off. It absolutely delivers here. Destiny fans have a brand new subset of weapon types, but for big Star Wars fans, my god, the feeling of firing the DL-44, Mando's sniper rifle that disintegrates on impact, is fantastic. It really is. You will know at all times you are playing Destiny 2 because of the enemies that you are coming up against, but I really think it doesn't matter because of how good it feels. Star Wars is no stranger to collaborations, and we've seen lightsabers and blasters come to Fortnite, but in terms of that compared to Destiny 2, it's chalk and cheese for me. That if you want something modern that is practically a Star Wars first-person shooter, I think Renegades will really fulfill that fantasy. I knew that the guns were going to be great because Bungie's gunplay speaks for itself, but what I can't believe how much I love is the lightsabers here, the Praxic Blade. I've never liked swords in Destiny, they've just never ever felt good, but the work that has gone in here for the lightsabers, I can't believe the Bungie are going to have a real problem going forward because I'm not sure how you can ever take me off this thing, seriously. When Bungie was showing off Renegades via their Vidoc, they spoke about what do we actually use from Star Wars and put into Destiny, and a lot of it comes from the audio side of things, and it shows. I mean, firing the DL-44, igniting the lightsaber, deflecting with the lightsaber. I just think, even though it's all happening within the realm of Destiny, you forget about it. And I just think about how much fun I had when I ignited my lightsaber, and they do this really cool exotic mission that is trying to resemble some kind of Jedi temple. And when you get it, and they just give you the stage, and they just say, go and have fun. And it is. It's just so much fun to use and experiment with. I'll touch on it a lot more in my Destiny video, but look, Destiny has so many faults, but one thing I just still cannot fault it for is how good it feels to play. And now here with this Star Wars arsenal, regardless of the Destiny sandbox you are in, as a Star Wars fan, with these weapons, with the abilities, you are going to have fun. Regardless of whether you connect with the story, how much the soundtrack impresses you, whether you're bothered about the locations or the characters, as a Destiny Star Wars sandbox, it's just a ridiculous amount of fun to play. And one thing that I can't go any longer without talking about is the Renegades soundtrack, because it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. For me, it's a top 3 Destiny expansion soundtrack, but I think for anyone listening to it, it's a fantastic Star Wars inspired soundtrack too. It's just so unique, and also the variety within it. I mentioned at the top that there's several different locations, but what I didn't mention is the Cantina, which acts as the hub zone for Renegades, that it's just genuinely really well done in terms of existing in a Destiny aesthetic, that it's a natural fit. But in this Cantina, the music in there is brilliant. There's a Cantina melody of the main Destiny theme and other stuff there, but that's the real highlight for me. But the music doesn't just stop there. It's the big cinematic battles that are a real highlight for me. Really epic, that regardless of whether you're thinking about the Star Wars inspirations or not, I think it's going to connect with you. Again, you're not going to hear the Force theme here or Across the Stars, but you will hear some great music that you appreciate. Think of it in a similar way to Star Wars Outlaws, that I thought also had a really great soundtrack despite not using the well-known themes. Much like Star Wars Outlaws, that when the campaign is over, you can align yourself with the different factions and level them up, which gets you shaders and unique benefits in terms of the gameplay, but you're fighting on behalf of one against the other two, and you're just trying to level all of them up. It's not like you will just stick to one for the rest of it. You can level them all up as you go, but it's something that I appreciate. How far you, as someone, just as a Star Wars fan that's never played Destiny, might take it, I don't know. But there is a lot to do here within the realms of the Star Wars aspects of the expansion. It's not like prior Destiny expansions or anything like that with the Final Shape or Lightfall, where there is seasons and everything still to come. You just have, basically, once the campaign is over, the lightsaber grind, which allows you to get all the different lightsaber crystals, different traits, and there's a lot of that, by the way. And then there's a faction system that you level them all up, get some cool, unique rewards, and it's just rerunning this activity over and over again. But even though the factions themselves aren't from Star Wars, they do feel right at home. I mean, I love the Vex in particular, being able to dress themselves up and go into fashion, and they got the big Star Wars trench coats. There's just a lot to really appreciate, even if it doesn't contain the Star Wars universe itself. And if you are new to Destiny, I know it caught a lot of people's attention that you can get Boba Fett armor and Mandalorian armor, or Kylo and Vader and Grievous, or Troopers. Please be aware that those are class specific, so Boba Fett is a hunter, for example. Vader, I believe, is a Titan. Kylo Ren's a Warlock. Just make sure you're picking the right class for who you are. Those armors, ornaments, they're not universal. And I know that for some people, if they can be the Mandalorian with the sniper, they will pick up the game just to do so. So again, Mandalorian be a sniper. Just make sure you are aware of what you are, because I'm trying to think of everything from who hasn't played Destiny before, because there's so much that you can get overwhelmed with. But what I would say for any Star Wars fan who is going to give it the college try, do the tutorial, get stuck into the expansion, and then go from there if you want to explore more of Destiny around that. But for me, I think it's simple enough to just be able to play this expansion, play the dungeon when it drops, and drop. And that'll be more than enough, and I think you'll get a fulfilling experience from that. What's important in the context of talking about Renegades is the sentiment that Bungie needs Star Wars to get players back. But I actually look at it in the opposite manner. I think Star Wars needed this. We've not had a Star Wars first-person shooter since Battlefront 2 in 2017. There is no current Star Wars FPS that is announced. And with EA's Mandalorian game cancelled, I think it's been pretty bleak in terms of Star Wars gaming for us fans right now. KOTOR and Eclipse are in limbo. Just Jedi 3 and Zero Company are officially announced, and there's maybe a Total War Star Wars game coming at the time of recording. So I look at this expansion and I think, well, if I wasn't into Destiny 2, would I be impressed by this as a fan? And the answer is yeah. Regardless of whether the Destiny story clicked or that I enjoy the inspired locations, what is clear as day to me is that this is the best Star Wars blasters have felt, even within the realms of Destiny 2. Headshots with the DL-44, firing off the DC-17, or deflecting blaster shots with the lightsaber. It's just a ridiculous amount of fun. I understand the complaints of it distorting Destiny's identity. I understand how ridiculously intimidating Destiny 2 is as a game. I understand the general sentiment around Bungie. But I'm very aware that video games at the heart of them are about fun. And Renegades as a Star Wars expansion absolutely is that. As a fan, sometimes I'll be more harsh about something, more critical about something, because I want something to be the best version it can possibly be. But I also remember that as a fan, sometimes I just want to have a smile on my face and enjoy it. And Destiny 2 Renegades allow me to have that as a Star Wars fan, that really it's just had some great Jedi games recently and there's not too much on the horizon. And I think about putting myself in that situation as a Star Wars fan of video games too. Would I want to play this? And the answer is yes. Yeah, I would. Throughout so much of the campaign, I just smiled because of the score, or the weapon feel, or the cool mission leading you to getting your lightsaber. Fans of Star Wars might not connect with Destiny 2's story, or the characters here, but there is a lot to enjoy. And as such, I do recommend it to you. Not Destiny 2 as a package, just Renegades, because the Force is strong with this one. Anyway, I'll have a further video up on my thoughts on this expansion in the context of Destiny 2, which I have a lot more to say, so look forward to that. But let me know, are you gonna play it? Have you played it? What do you think? If you enjoy Star Wars games, then consider subscribing. Regardless, I hope you have a terrific day. Play games, get gains, and I'll catch you in the next one.